Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be filming a Too Faced try-on of their It Comes Naturally collection. Now I've got the face palette, I've got two of the eyeshadow palettes, which of course makes me really excited, and I've got a ton of the lipsticks. Now I'm not going to be able to try all of these lipsticks on in today's video, let's get real, so I will be doing a lip swatch video in a few weeks time, but I'm missing one shade, so I'm gonna order that during the Sephora VIB sale, and then I can film an entire lip swatch video from this collection. The whole collection overall is very neutral. I think Too Faced has done this a few years in a row now where their spring collection tends to be very neutral focused. And I think it's in part because we start to get into like wedding season right now, and these tend to be the kind of shades that brides want to wear on their wedding day. So I think that's why we keep seeing neutral collections in the spring. Anyway, although I'm not a huge neutral lover, I still love Too Faced and this gets me really excited, so let's dive right in. So I am just priming my eyes right now, but because I just mentioned the Sephora VIB sale, I should also mention when the dates are. It's kind of broken up depending on whether you're VIB Rouge, VIB, or Beauty Insider. So I'll put the dates on the screen so that you have a better idea of when you can get items on sale at Sephora. It is a 15% discount, I think, this time. The fall sale tends to be 20%, but this one is 15%. So diving into the eyes, I have two eyeshadow palettes that I'm going to be using in combination together. One is the original Naturalize palette. You guys may recognize this kind of theme from years and years of Too Faced having this palette. They have updated the formula. It's got a bit of a cocoa butter scent, coconut a little bit maybe, which the original palettes did not have, but they've updated the shades a little bit in here. They're not all the same as far as I'm aware. I never actually owned the original palettes. And the pans are a little bit bigger on this side of the palette. They've increased the size, which is nice. So this one's their Natural Eyes palette, and the other one is the Natural Matte palette, which was an existing palette as well, but again, it's gone through a reformulation, and I think there's a few updated shades. Never owned the Natural palette, so I'm really excited to try these out. So starting out with the Natural Matte palette, I'm gonna go in with Au Natural right here and put that through my crease. And I always pull that quite high because I have hooded lids and I want my eyeshadow to show up. I know I've mentioned this before, but I love that Too Faced sends their eyeshadow palettes. I know it's not for everybody, but it really adds to the experience of doing my makeup in the morning. I get a little bit sad when I use a palette now that doesn't have a scent. And so that is the perfect crease shade, generally. This is the kind of color I like to put. It's a little bit warm. It doesn't tend to be neutral. I prefer the warmer shades through my crease. Switching over to the Natural Eyes palette, I'm going to take Honey Pot right here and put that all over my lid. I'm pretty much going for a warmer neutral look. It just tends to be what I gravitate towards. So far, these shadows are pigmented and buttery. Back to the Natural Matte, I'm going to take Hookup, which is quite a nice warm brown, and put that on my outer corner and pull that through my crease. These are... yeah, I'm having to knock my brush off because they're really pigmented, but they're a little bit dusty. So there's powder kick up everywhere. That doesn't bother me, by the way. I would rather something be powdery than stiff, because a stiff eyeshadow is impossible to get off on your brush. For my brow bone, I'm going to use Heaven from the Natural Matte palette. I feel like when I was younger, I used to wear a shimmery color on my brow bone, and that seemed to have stopped as soon as I hit 30. Now I always gravitate towards something matte there. It's funny though, because whenever I see a shimmery highlight on somebody else, like on the brow bone area, I'm always like, that's so pretty. Yet I never do it. I think I want a little bit more deepness in my outer corner, so I'm gonna go to, what are you called? Risky Biz right here and put that just on the outer corner. I do this a lot, generally with a black, just because I like it really deep there. Yeah, like that. There's a lot of pigment on these shadows though, like you really don't need to dig your brush in very much. I'm getting way more pigment than I expect off on the eyes. I've got some fallout, so before I do the lower lash line, I'm just going to clean some up with some Bioderma on a cotton round. I always get fallout. Doesn't matter what eyeshadow brand I'm using. I always get something dropping onto this sort of area, which is why I always do my eyeshadow first, because if I were to do my foundation first, this would be such a disaster trying to take this off. For my inner corner highlight, I'm gonna go back to the original Natural Eyes palette and dip into Silk Teddy on a pencil brush and just put that on the inner corner. And I always take that inner corner and try to blend it up a little bit and then pull it around that inner corner. Going back into Honey Pot, which is my lid shade, I'm just gonna put that right on the center of my lower lash line. And then back to Hookup and put that on the outer corner. So that's the eyes pretty much done for shadow. I'm gonna pop on some wing liner, some mascara, and some falsies, and I will be right back. All right, eyes done. I can't help adding falsies onto my looks, especially on camera. I feel like it adds so much. I don't wear them day to day, but hey, if I'm gonna be on camera, I might as well wear them. I'm gonna move on to the face. So I'm gonna put the Too Faced Peach Perfect foundation on. Not part of this collection, but I love this thing. It's probably one of the most transfer-proof foundations that I have. So good. I'm going to be moving on to bronzer at this point, and Too Faced did relaunch their Chocolate Soleil bronzers. I have milk chocolate here, the regular Chocolate Soleil, and then there is a dark chocolate, but I don't have that one. And they did also relaunch their Sun Bunny one, but I'm not going to be using these in this video because I want to dive straight into the Natural Face Palette. And this has blushes, bronzers, and highlighters. And I am so happy because I've been lamenting the fact that not enough brands release a palette like this, which would be perfect for travel. I think I only really have one blush palette that has a bronzer in it, and it's by Tarte. This thing has blush, bronzer, and highlighter, which is excellent. Now, I will be doing a blog review on the Too Faced bronzers, so be on the lookout for that. I will link my blog down below. Not everyone's aware, but I don't just have a YouTube channel, I have a blog as well, and I post a lot of extra reviews on there. All right, let's dive into the Natural Face Palette. I think the obvious answer here for bronzer for me is gonna be Sunny Honey. This one down here is beautiful. It's called Tropic Like It's Hot, but it's quite shimmery. So I think they have it listed as like a bronzing veil. That might be something if you want a little bit more shimmer in your bronzer. This one's quite matte, maybe a little bit satin. And just like the eyeshadow palettes, this has that kind of like coconut cocoa scent. At least I think it's coconut and cocoa. I really like the most of my bronzer right back here. I do bring it up on my forehead to kind of try to make it look like actual sun has hit my face, but I like when there's a chunk of bronzer there. Don't know why. And I always take whatever's left on my brush and drag it back down my neck. It's my cheekbone, not my neck. To try to connect it so that it doesn't look too, I don't know, disconnected. I'm not trying to carve out my cheeks or my chin. I don't really care about contouring. I just want some semblance that I've been in the sun more than I actually have. Okay, I kind of want to try Tropic Like It's Hot anyway, so whoa. Go gently. Let's see. Okay, it's not destroying my face. Definitely, yeah, okay. This might be a color that doesn't really work for me. I'm trying to whack off my brush here. Unless I've got quite a tan, because that's a bit too dark and shimmery even for me. Okay, I'm gonna blend that out with my sponge. That's good though. Like, I'm not the only skin color out there, obviously. So the fact that this palette can work for people who are deeper skin tone is hugely appreciated. So my first instinct in this palette would be to go for Pink Wink, which is that bright pink color. But I think for blush, I'm gonna have to go for Pink Sand today because it's just gonna match the overall effect a lot better. I've got a lot of color through there right now. For my highlighter today, I'm gonna be using Satin Sheets over here. And this was originally an eyeshadow of theirs. And they said they reformulated it to make it a highlighter, but I really couldn't tell you what the difference is between like a cheek powder and an eyeshadow powder. So to me, this is basically just a big eyeshadow, but it is a beautiful color. It's got a bit of a golden sheen to it. It's beautiful on the eyes, and it is equally gorgeous as a highlight. It's funny though, in the pan, it's got way more of a pink sheen, and on the cheeks, it definitely comes out quite gold. Whacked on some brows off camera, and the only thing remaining now is lipstick. Now, I did mention that I've got 9 of the 10 shades from the Natural Nudes collection, so I'm only going to be applying one today, but I will do a full review and lip swatch video in a few weeks' time, so be on the lookout for that if this collection intrigues you. But for today, I'm going to be putting on the shade Skinny Dippin'. So there's my finished It Comes Naturally Too Faced look. So let's do a little bit of a recap on the products. So the eyeshadow palettes, although I didn't try every single shade in here, are really good. These are incredibly pigmented though, so I think it might take a few people by surprise. I got a surprising amount of kick up on these shadows, which I did mention I prefer over something that is very stiff. You just may have to tap off your brush, otherwise you're gonna end up with quite a bit of fallout. That being said, I like powdery eyeshadows because I feel like they're way more pigmented. These did blend very, very nicely. I felt like they were smooth. The amount of color that I got off on my eyes was fantastic. So I feel like the quality is definitely there. I think a few people are going to be surprised that there is so much kick up from a Too Faced eyeshadow, just because the brand's never really had a, I don't know, a texture like that. I don't think it's uncommon in the makeup industry now. If I think to like Anastasia Beverly Hills, their eyeshadow palettes are so poofy. And a lot more brands are tending to go towards a powdery formula, which honestly I really like because I feel like there's way more pigment and it's easier to blend. But yeah, that just might take some people by surprise for Too Faced. So moving on to the Natural Face Palette, hands down this was the thing that I was the most excited to try out. And having used it now, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. I think the colors are good. I think they are quite pigmented, but I almost feel like they're too pigmented for what this palette is. I feel like they're the same consistency as the eyeshadows, which is kind of not what I want. I want something a little bit stiffer because I don't want to be pulling that much pigment off when I'm putting something on my face. So I felt like this bronzer up here, what are you called? Sunny Honey was quite good. I felt like that went on really well. But this Tropic Like It's Hot, which is supposed to be like a bronzing veil, actually they're both listed as a bronzing veil, which to me that's just a bronzer, was too pigmented. Now that might work for somebody who is deeper in skin tone, which is excellent, but for me it almost makes this one unusable unless I'm wearing it as like an eyeshadow, because as a bronzer this is way too intense. The blushes are great. I think those are fantastic. I think the powderiness on them is fine. You just may not be used to it if you're not used to like a strong cheek color and you only want like a hint of color. The highlighters are very interesting. They're kind of a weird color selection. Now I like how my highlighter looks on camera, but in person it is very yellow. Now Satin Sheets looks like a golden pink sheen, but I feel like I'm really only getting gold on my cheeks and it's very strong. This other one up here, which I didn't get to use today, but I did swatch earlier, is called Starlight. It's really interesting, but I'm not sure it's a color that most people are going to want to use as a highlight. It's kind of like a peach with pink shimmer to it. It's gorgeous, but I don't think it's a highlight that most people are used to wearing. So while I think it's fantastic, it's interesting that they put a color like that in such a natural based collection. I almost feel like a pearl or a champagne would have worked better. And you know what, guys? It's hilarious for me to even say that because I'm not into champagne highlighters anymore. I feel like it's so overdone on the market. But for a palette like this, I feel like it would have worked out a little bit better. Now, that's not to say that I'm not gonna like the shade when I put it on. It might be absolutely beautiful, but I just think it was a weird color selection for this thing. And the last item is what's on my lips, and that's the Natural Nudes Intense Color Coconut Butter Lipstick. I like this. It's really easy to apply. It went on my lips like butter. It's super comfortable. It's not, there's no real taste to it, which is funny because these are so scented. But the color is beautiful. It's got a bit of a sheen to it, but it feels like it's gonna stay in place. And sometimes something that has a sheen, I feel like is going to, I don't know, like bleed out everywhere. There's something about this formula that feels like it's going to stay in place, which is very reassuring to me because I tend to suffer from lip feathering constantly. Anyway, I like the color. I just grabbed one that I thought would go with the eyes, and hey, it seems to have worked out really well. So that's gonna be it for my Too Faced It Comes Naturally try on and some mini reviews of the products that I put on my face. Let me know if you're gonna be picking up anything from this collection. I would love to hear about that. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.